John Cage has kind of three phases of influence on me. Basically, the electronic period, where he collaborated with David Tudor. Now, David Tudor was one of the preeminent and most prodigious pianists in the United States. And around the late 1940s, he decided to start working with electronics. Very, very basic stuff. Processing his piano and various other elements. And on the grapevine, John Cage heard about this and took a fancy to it, and eventually started collaborating with David Tudor. And again, primitive but innovative. And, he did like all these kind of variations with David Tudor, but also he did his own imaginary landscapes, which were highly influential, and influential to me in my embryonic electronics epoch. The string quartets. John Cage string quartets influenced me when I was composing my string quartet for the Up North Festival. And when I played the Up North Festival, it was a collaboration with the Cicada String Quartet from Oslo. Now, at that juncture, Cicada were one of the main purveyors of the John Cage songbook in Europe. And when we were in rehearsal, because it was string quartet plus electric guitar, and when we were rehearsing, one of the chaps from Cicada, kind of as a bit of an A-side in jocular mode, said, "There's more than a whiff of John Cage from this." That concert was actually recorded by Danish National Radio and Broadcast. Also, John Cage was an influence on my Sibelius Sonatas. John Cage's work with the Merce Cunningham dance troupe, the prepared piano pieces, were highly influential to me. And indeed, when I recorded my album with Caine and Ben Perowsky, Closure, there's elements of Cage across the spectrum of that album, and including in particular the song Prepared. The song Prepared is highly evocative of the prepared piano pieces that John Cage composed for the Merce Cunningham dance troupe. And also this has a distinction of Prepared being performed on the last vestiges of Yugoslavian television. Serbia had extricated itself from Yugoslavia, but the psyche of Yugoslavia was still permeating the air. The symbols, the semiotics of Yugoslavia were still there. Now, next question is, do I have an intersection with John Cage? And it's yes, I do, via the same medium that I have an intersection with Morton Feldman. I performed in a concert engagement in the Tonic Club, it was a very prestigious jazz club in New York City. And I played there with Jamie Saft and Bobby Previtt. Bobby Previtt studied at the State University of New York in Buffalo. And John Cage was a teacher at State University of New York in Buffalo and taught Bobby Previtt. And also Morton Feldman, who was the Edgar Varese Professor of Music in Buffalo, also taught Bobby Previtt, but more particularly John Cage did, which is, there isn't a lot of intersections with John Cage, and that is a profound one. John Cage, again, he has many spheres of influence and influenced many people, but the three phases, the electronics phase, the quartet phase, and the music that he composed on prepared piano for Merce Cunningham. These are three profound influences upon me. Thank you very much for listening.